Hello and welcome to the new video. Today we're going to take a look at the best teams for the Catch Cup. Catch Cup going to be available for 1 week. We're only going to take a look at the Great League variant of it. Because if you go to PvPoke and take a look at the Little Cup variant of it, you're going to see top 10 Pokemon are basically all insane XL type Pokemon. So yeah, PvPoke I think doesn't have an option for the Catch Cup for the Great League as far as I didn't see it at least. So we're gonna take a look here today as well at the meta, what are currently like available in terms of Pokemon and what you kind of want to build. So feel free to subscribe to the video. Why do I always say subscribe to the video? Feel free to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and like the video of course, and we can move on to the meta. First of all, we're going to have a big kind of very laggy sign here of a lot of moving Pokemon. We're just going to see here all the Pokemon basically that I saw being either featured in certain events or being in my current storage from the last 3 months. And they're going to be quite a lot of Pokemon that are also kind of cheap to build. For example, Pidgeot is kind of cheap to build, which was recently as well during one event. Staraptor is really cheap. Golbat is something that you can build quite cheap. We have the Victory Bell from the community today. We have the Incineroar from the community today. We're going to have the Serena from the community day, which is going to be this weekend. We're going to have Gligar, which was supposed to be available during the PvP event recently, but it was like not really that available, to be fair. Like it was just not really spawning for whatever reason, and they kind of screwed it up. We're going to have Galarian Stunfisk, which was spawning quite a lot of times. Galissapod got like a shiny release and also is a very cheap Pokemon to build if you have the candy, which you should kind of have now. Skeldurge, very cheap to build, but I think most people are going to build an Annihilate for this cup because yeah, Mankey was spawning and like a lot of people need better IVs as well still. I got some good IVs, so I'm definitely going to build those Pokemon as well, but here you can also stop it and just take a look at the Pokemon that are quite decent that were spawning this season. Maybe you can build some of them as well. Wilma, by the way, is a fun Pokemon to use. There's going to be a video towards this Pokemon tomorrow as well, very likely, so stay tuned for this. But yeah, here are some Pokemon that you can build for sure that were spawning, and we move on to a slide that is not as laggy. Team number 1. Now everything is moving normal again. Sorry for that stuff before, just because there were too many Pokemon on there. But let's take a look at the first team here. This is going to be kind of a standard line, which I would imagine going to be played quite often. We're going to have here the Galarian Stunfisk or the Carbink or also the Registeel in the lead. There are going to be other Pokemon that you can run as well. For example, Bastion, for example, Probopass. Basically anything that beats flying type Pokemon is going to be great. And if you look at the teams that we're going to showcase here today, you're going to see some common weaknesses, which is kind of on purpose, slash like I only use Pokemon that you just saw on the slide prior, so I don't really have a lot of kind of options or whatever. There might be other Pokemon that you have built that were not on the slide before that might be good substitutes, but if you want to just have generally good Great League teams, I already did I think 3 or 4 videos this season about like top Great League teams. Just check them out on the channel. There's a playlist for all the meta analysis as well, so definitely check that one out. But anyways, what you're going to see here, for example, is huge weakness against Cresselia. Cresselia is not eligible. You cannot get a Cresselia in the current meta. Huge weakness to Azumarill, I guess, with a lead in the Say Swap. It is possible to get Azumarill still this season. There were like some spawns, but it was like very rare, and I don't think a lot of people are going to build an XL variant of it. For Feraligatr, unsure. Some people most likely going to have a Shadow Feraligatr build because it was spawning now in the new Shadow event, but I'm not too sure on how many people got like one there as well. So I didn't really include it here, but if you have a Shadow Feraligatr, might be decent to run as well. And you're going to have a weakness here to Gligar, as said before. Gligar might be something that people are going to be able to run, but I'm not too sure after the last event on how likely it is that people are actually having this Pokemon. You could also use in the lead, for example, some Ice type as well. For example, Dugong if you have that build, or Aurorus if you have that build, would also work out quite well for this team and would kind of cover up the weakness of Gligar. But yeah, otherwise, if you don't encounter too many Gligars, this team going to be great. And otherwise, you just can change your lead a little bit. Maybe that would help you out as well. But again, depends on what you caught. Dugong might be something that is kind of available because we had like the Kanto event right now anyway. So who knows? Let's move on to team number 2. Again, I kind of want to try to put in those Pokemon that were spawning quite frequently here. We're going to have a team with a Victory Bell, Skeldurge, and the Ninetales. Ninetales was spawning even during a Spotlight Hour. Skeldurge had an event in the beginning of the season, which was like for Pokemon Horizons. We had the Incineroar Community Day here, which works also out as a Say Swap. We have the Victory Bell Community Day. And we're going to have the Alone Sandslash, which was spawning in the recent event for the PvP event as well, like the Rivals event. This Pokemon was spawning there, so definitely would be a decent option here. I kind of wanted to put in also the option of the Sandslash because of Gligar. Gligar would be a little bit of an issue, and Mantine as well for this team. Mantine is more of an issue than Gligar in my opinion, because Mantine was more commonly spawning during the Size event. But so like if you're going to be scared of this, go for Alone Sandslash. It's going to help you. You don't need the Legacy move of Shadow Claw on the Alone Sandslash either. You can just run over the standard moveset because Shadow Claw is most likely even worse for this team. And so I think this is going to be a great team to run, maybe with a Sandslash instead though, because does make some sense, but definitely a solid team to use. And my face cam just froze, so I need a new PC, by the way. Like, my PC is just dying a little bit, but it is what it is. We have to wait for that. Anyways, we're going to talk a little bit more about team number 3 here. Again, there are going to be other options that you can run as well. If you have a Lantern, for example, would be great as a closer for this team, or if you have a Skarmory build, would be great as a closer, both of which are not really spawning this season. There was an event where we got the Chinchou as what's called quest encounters, but this is why I didn't put this in here, because I don't know how many people really got a good one that they want to build. Maybe if you got a 100 Chinchou and it would still be below 1500 CP for the Lantern, this would be worth building for this cup, because you would be able to use it for the Ultra League for another season. Otherwise, if you have, for example, the Shadow variant of the Empoleon or whatever that you have built, you can use it in the back here as well, or if you have the Feraligatr build, you can use it as a save swap. Otherwise, this team is kind of nice. Oh my god, you're going to lose against Carbink, which I have as like options as well, which people might be able to get because this like spawns from Go Battle League, and also there was an event where we had them in quests, but I doubt a lot of people are going to build a Carbink, and you're going to lose against the Guslord, which is not available this season as far as I know. Maybe they were spawning as like raids and you can trade them, I'm not too sure, but you're most likely not going to encounter a single one of them, so not too bad. Moving on, team number 4. We're going to have a team that I think is going to be great, and I think it's going to be worth kind of getting, and this would be kind of the teams that I would try to get here as well. We're going to have the Abomasnow, the Golisopod, and the Jellicent. I think Golisopod is like one of those Pokemon, if you don't have one built yet, you should most likely build this season, because it's a very cheap Pokemon to build. You need only 10k for the secondary charge move. You're going to get like this Pokemon quite easily up as well in terms of levels, only like level 20 or whatever what it needs, so like it's not expensive at all. Abomasnow, if you have a Shadow variant, would be nice. If you have a Sandslash that you still need to build, it's kind of nice for this kind of meta as well. And you're going to have also the Jellicent here in the back, which I had like a few spawn recently, so that's why I kind of put it in there. But otherwise you go for Mantine, you go for any kind of water type Pokemon, especially if they're going to be able to resist fighting type moves. It's going to be great, because you lead very weak to Annihilape, and your backline very good against Annihilape. And this kind of where Golisopod I think has a lot of play in this season, or like in this kind of week here, because a lot of people are going to run Annihilape. And Golisopod is one of the hardest answers, having access to Shadow Claw. I would maybe even go for Aerial Ace over Exeter for this meta, just because it's better against the Annihilape. But you will win against it no matter what, especially in the 2-shield scenario, just because you do super effective damage while the opponent does resisted damage. So very cool Pokemon to run, definitely something I would recommend you for this meta, and we can move on to the next team. Team number 5. Those teams are going to be kind of common as well. We had Steelix available, or like the Onix available now during the Kanto event, but also during the Size event again, because it was like one of the large Pokemons. So definitely something that I would recommend you. Here also with Psychic Fangs as a save swap, going to allow you to bait out potential fighting type Pokemon to clear the path for the Registeel, which was spawning in raids, or something like a Probopass. If you have a Bastion build, if you have a Carbink build, stuff like this in the back would all work out quite well. It's a little bit tough maybe against something like an Annihilape as well, but your own Annihilape is neutral, and you can bait them out with Steelix, and you have Psychic Fangs for this kind of situation, so I think that still would be kind of okay. Gligar can again be a little bit of an annoying Pokemon to deal with, but I think it's still going to be fine. I think this team should work out quite well. Again, I don't really expect too many Gligar, but I might be wrong, who knows. Team number 6. I got a very good Quagsire as a Shadow variant though this season, which I'm not going to build because I have like enough built anyway, and I'm not going to build for this kind of season or like for this cup at all. But otherwise you can use Staraptor or Pidgeot in the back here, which would be a very cheap team if you kind of want to build it. By the way, it is worth it to build a team for this cup and rather play it. It is not a waste of Stardust if you can reuse the Pokemon, or if you build Pokemon that are quite cheap, like a Pidgeot, like a Quagsire, like a Staraptor, like those Pokemon that are quite easy to build, that only need a little bit of yeah, Stardust or whatever. You can even, I don't know, like it is definitely worth it for this, especially if you get like a good Pidgeot. Here you need the Elite Fast TM for Pidgeot with Wing Attack. Elite Fast TMs are rarely used anyway, so I feel like it's kind of fine. Quagsire, you don't need actually Awkward here. You can also just go ahead and go for Mud Bomb if you want to. It doesn't really matter, to be fair. But yeah, I feel like it's still worth it to play this week just to get the starters back. Basically, you get around like 250k, I think, each week for playing Go Battle League if you play it every set. And so if you're somewhere below that, you're always going to kind of make some stuff. Plus, also you get some Pokemon encounter and you get some rare candies and stuff like this. So I feel like it's still worth it to play this week. Next team here is going to be something that's more expensive if you really want to play this one here, because you're going to have the LilyNiRiain as a safe swap. If you have not built a LilyNiRiain yet, this is definitely the time to do it, because LilyNiRiain is going to be overpowered in this meta. LilyNiRiain is going to be quite easily available from the season. There were a lot of spawns for this Pokemon, also I think during the recent event again, so if you have not built one yet, definitely try to build one for this one. Otherwise, Castform is kind of like LilyNiRiain and cheaper. Castform was available during the weather week quite commonly. And also we're going to have your Galarian Stunfisk in the back, or the Toxicroak. Toxicroak was in a Spotlight Hour. Drifblim was also spawning, I think, during the weather week quite commonly, at least for me. So definitely Pokemon that have been quite easily available this season. Team number 8, we're going to have a double fairy line. Clefable had, or like Clefairy had A, the Hatch Day, but also B, a Spotlight Hour afterwards. So like this Pokemon is quite available. Ribblecott had like an event where it got like a special hat on. And Jellicent again was like spawning quite decently for me, at least in my area. Might be something that's just in my area, but I had like 3-4 in my inventory. So if you want to build this team, I think it does make quite a lot of sense as well. Very good against Annihilape, and Annihilape going to be on nearly every team. So this team basically destroys Annihilape users, which I feel like is a smart play to go for this week. And definitely still have to build a team as well. By the way, if you have some interesting content for this week coming up, feel free to use a link in the description to send me some battles. I kind of rely on your battles this week, because I'm not going to have a lot that I can show to you, because I only have like 5-6 Pokemon builds, so would really appreciate it. But let's move on to team number 9. We're going to have a team here with Steelix on the Registeel in the lead. It's kind of similar to what we had with the Annihilape in the lead and the double steel backline. It's just kind of flipped around. But I kind of wanted to highlight Haunter. Ghastly is spawning quite commonly recently, at least for me. And Haunter does make a lot of sense in this meta, because there are going to be a lot of Annihilape safe swaps in this meta. Like a lot of Annihilape safe swaps. And what you can do basically here is you can just go ahead and completely farm them down and get out with like nearly 100 energy, having an Ice Punch and a Shell Ball stored. It is just great, so Haunter makes a lot of sense as a closer for this meta, just to destroy Annihilape. And as LilyNiRiain is not going to be too common, Mandibuzz might be a little bit of an issue. There was an event where Mandibuzz was spawning, so what I would recommend here actually is for Steelix, maybe not go for Crunch, but go for Breaking Swipe, which makes the matchup against Mandibuzz way easier. Would maybe make a little bit more sense if you go for Steelix. Otherwise, of course, Registeel is a great answer for the Mandibuzz, and so this is going to be definitely a decent one for you. You can actually even think of going for the Ice Punch on the Annihilape as well. That would be also making some sense. And again, if you're too scared of Gligar, maybe go ahead and go for something like an Aurorus on lead or a Dugong. Some kind of ice type would make a lot of sense as well for this team. So yeah, definitely would be interesting. We're going to move on to team number 10, which is going to be with Gligar double fighter. You can also use something like a Pidgeot on the lead, or you can use something like, I don't know, like any kind of flying type Pokemon, to be fair, is kind of fine here. So definitely a team that is quite decent to run in this meta as well. Again, Mantine can be a little bit of an issue for this team for sure, but yeah, maybe you can even use a different kind of flying type lead that can beat Mantine as well for this one. But like, it's just double fighter backline does make a lot of sense with the spawns of the season. But that's going to be it for this video. Let me know in the comment section what you're going to run for this kind of meta. And also, if you have something spicy or interesting to showcase, feel free to send in some battles with a link below. Would really appreciate it, and I'll see you then. Bye bye.